This is it, we've finally arrived at what is technically the last lore video on Tower of God. The previous 18 lore videos give you a complete overview of the lore, each focusing on a specific theme. I did my best during all these videos to provide as much information as possible, especially regarding the lore that doesn't come from the chapters but from everything outside the work. Interviews, question and answers, or SIU blog posts, tweets, etc. The non-canon lore, that is. However, since I was sort of always restricted by a particular theme, there is still some information that I couldn't put in the previous videos to show you, and that's why this video is going to serve as a bit of a catch-all for all the information I couldn't give in the other videos. So I'm going to stick to the information that gives us elements about the lore or the story that I think I haven't talked about yet and that I think are relevant. So I won't talk about anecdotes about things outside the work like SIU's analysis, anecdotes about his life or his way of working, etc. because otherwise the video would go on way too long. Anyway, hi, it's Lilian, and we meet again for the 19th lore video on Tower of God, the one about anecdotes. At one time, SIU was quite active on Twitter and gave some information that I sometimes already talked about in the other videos, so I sorted out to give you only the ones that I think I did not talk about and that give small information. Alexei Amigochaz's skin color and wings, the Shibisu team's launcher, are removable, which explains his physical transformations between his different appearances. Yuto will reappear later and looks like Hwaryun. If you forgot who Yuto is, I talk about it quickly in the video about the guides. When Rachel discovers Joaquin in the train for the first time, he was 1m50 tall. Ragel, or Angel, call her what you want, is the scout and anima. Hats is the eldest of a rather strict family of swordsmen and has 3 brothers and sisters. The number of Jihad princesses originally planned has increased due to the expansion of the scenario. Finally, SIU had also said they would do an audio drama in a 2013 tweet, and it was shortly after that there will be this audio drama, which is actually a rather interesting discussion between Anak and Endorsi, and in particular helps to better understand why Endorsi wanted to see Garam on the death floor. Please note that this discussion is from 2013 and thus from the beginning of Season 2, and that in context it is the continuation of Season 1, before Kun's team and Shibisu's team split up. It's not very long, so I'll read you the translation. Once Shibisu and Kun left the room to talk, Anak and Endorsi spent a moment in silence. Although Endorsi was always ready to create tension between herself and the others, like a dry matchbox, tonight she seemed weak and exhausted, as if she had been soaked by the rain. "Why did you decide to come with us?" Anak asked Endorsi reluctantly. Endorsi, lying on the side bed, glanced at Anak and said, "I'm not sure. If you come with me, your position as Princess of Jihad may be threatened. Do you still want to go, even knowing the risks?" As Anak asked over and over, Endorsi answered slowly, staring at the ceiling for a long moment. Then she stunned Anak by asking a strange question. "Hey lizard, during those years when you were separated from your mother, where were you?" "Huh? Tell me, where is this place that even these palace punks can't find? I want to go there and live there later." This time it was Anak who took his time to answer. Anak put on a serious face unlike her thought, then opened her mouth as if she had made a decision. "The 43rd floor." Following Anak's words, Endorsi's pupils saw here and there shaking more. From the lights on the ceiling, past the edge where the ceiling and wall meet, then through the simple patterned wallpaper, and finally to Anak Jihad. Without even blinking, blinded by the after image of the light, Endorsi asked Anak, "The 43rd floor? The place where Enryu appeared?" "Yeah, that place. That's the floor of death where there's no more floor administrator, right? How did you—" Anak sat up and caught her breath. Would it be possible to tell this story to Endorsi? Wouldn't she be sharing her own misfortune with a young princess who had a bright future ahead of her? Complicated thoughts lurked in her head. However, there was no turning back now. The girl in front of her had a look so dry that a spark could set her on fire. The expression here compares curiosity to dryness and information to fire. So Anak decided to throw a little ember at him. Garam Jihad. She was there. On his blog, SIU was doing a lot of questions and answers at one time, and he revealed a lot of interesting information. He also sometimes gave some in interviews too, so we'll see all that. Yuri is 1m80. Bam grew a few centimeters between the time he was in the cave and the time he came out. Bam used the white scarf around his neck to hide the black Mars in Season 1. The fact that Hedon understands and can talk to Bam without having given him a pocket is not an inconsistency, it is a foreshadowing of SIU that is not yet known. In Hansung Yu's test on the 2nd floor, in order to leave clues to the first participants, test assistants entered the room pretending to take the test. SIU will mention the existence of the merfolks, which could be roughly translated as sea people, who would be known to be excellent wave controllers. Bam is ambidextrous but uses his right hand more often. The floating palaces of the 10 great families are considered special areas and can therefore contain non-regulars, even though the palace can move in all 3 towers, and thus the inner tower, normally reserved for regulars and rankers. Most of the members of the 10 great families who do not climb the tower live there. It was Rachel who gave Balm his name, or at least told him what it was. When asked by someone if the presence of the characters in episode 0 of season 1 made sense, SIU replied maybe. Lopobia Ren came to the 2nd floor with the help of a guide. Lero and Quant climbed part of the tower together, and Quant is the older of the two. On the 2nd floor, Hansung Yu purposely placed Rachel's first test under Quant's supervision because he knew that Quant would mess up, create trouble, and allow Rachel to join Balm for the next test, setting in motion the plan to make it look like Balm was dead. Hence the sentence of Hansung Yu where he says, "I knew I was a genius." Lero is about 2 m tall. The way Aguero did it to make Ran a member of his team will probably be revealed in the Kun family arc, but it concerns their past. Also, Ran and Aguero already knew each other. The genre of Quattro Blitz is deliberately ambiguous. There will be a plot about the Mad Dogs and their angels. Something happened between the time Bam was in the cave and the time he runs after Rachel. Tower of God was originally planned for 4 seasons, but this information has become obsolete because Nava kind of forced SIU's hand to start a season 3 since season 2 was way too long. But it seems that normally, if SIU had done what they wanted, we would still be in season 2 right now. That is to say, in the Nest arc. This is the Black March that blocks the ball that Balm receives in chapter 22 of season 1, during the crown game. Balm will make many women cry. Endorsi is naturally stronger than Anax. Jahad can't win against a floor administrator. Ran is picky about food and prefers to eat yogurt, except the ones with syrup. Do what you want with this information. Kun told Balm that he retrieved and threw away all the rings that Hansung Yu gave to his friends as proof of passing the test, which were actually used to track them down for elimination if Balm did not obey the FUG. Xiaxia hated Ran when they first met, and she likes spicy food. Ewa still thinks that Rak is a dinosaur. Mising says she is older than Prince, but he refuses to tell her his age. Kun has political power and important relationships within his family. Huayun likes his eye patch. Rak likes bananas but has trouble peeling them. He hates Quattro Blitz because Quattro Blitz burned him some. Ewa knows his flames well enough to cook vegetables but still makes mistakes. Anak knows a little about Shibisu's past, and it is partly because of this that she agrees to climb with him. The Black March is not the most powerful needle in the tower, contrary to what the official French translation says, the real phrase being one of the most powerful, and there are many that are more powerful than it. When a regular abandons the ascent, he can go and find a job in the middle area of the floor or floors he has been on, and the higher the floor he has stopped at, the better he will be treated, a bit like the hierarchy of a company. About Wangnan's future, SIU had said in 2016 between the Dala Show arc and the Name Hunt Station arc that Wangnan will go a different way from Bam's group in the future, and that there will be something new after they split. He also said that Wangnan will be both strong and not strong, and that he might become a character with a different purpose. The black spots on Leroro's cheeks are not natural, he drew them himself. It seems that they symbolize the fact that he has passed a special test. It is indeed the workshop that created the God of the Guardians, at the same time as the Train of Hell. According to SRU, the regulars are selected by Hedon, while the irregulars are selected by the tower itself. And so, according to this definition, Rachel is technically neither regular nor irregular, since she was not selected by anyone. But she is still considered irregular because of the way she entered the tower. Anak's father was probably a powerful ranker since he entered the palace of Jahad. He could have been a palace knight or just a cook. Yuri and Leroro passed the second floor test together and are the only ones in their group who became ranker afterwards. However, Yuri became ranker long before Leroro. By the way, SIU had drawn the scene where they met back then, but couldn't figure out how to insert it into the chapters of season 1, so they just put it in an endnote on their blog. The murals on the first floor all have significance. Quant gets money from the commercials he starred in, that's his livelihood. Warrion is 1m68 tall. Kun was born on November 29th, Rak on July 7th, Endorsi on December 6th, Hartz on May 2nd, and Wangnan on July 17th. The two biggest commemorative holidays in the tower are those celebrating the day Jahad and his companions entered the tower, January 1st, and the day they reached the 134th floor, December 2nd. Enryu and Phantominium did not climb the tower by the traditional route, unlike Urek. The tower calendar has 13 months, the 13th being the Undecember, and this 13-month calendar comes from Jahad's hometown. Lore has had the same blanket since he was a toddler. SIU was inspired by his sister to create this character. Hansung Yu likes all instant food, not just coffee. There is some content that comes from the SIU blog that I didn't know how to put elsewhere. It's a long detailed explanation of the rooms game. at the beginning of season 2. I really don't want to translate it all because it's really detailed, but I'll put the link in the description if you're really interested. There are also some little comics about Tower of God that SIU made and that have been translated by Electrica. There are 3 in all and they are quite funny. There are also various mini comics translated in English which tell either anecdotal things that happened in the story, like Rak picking up the Black March just before Kun, Bam and him get teleported to the next test, or various ads, little crossovers or chill moments. Apart from that, I'll be honest, I'm really lazy to reread the 500 plus chapter endnotes of SIU, so I'm not going to list all the anecdotes coming from the notes, especially since the notes are almost all translated at the moment, and available either in commentary under the chapters of the official French translation, which I'm still translating and which is coming soon at the end of season 2, or at the end of the chapters translated by Electrica since season 3. There is no real problem of visibility or accessibility concerning them, so it's quite logical for me not to talk about them. Otherwise I might as well give all the anecdotes concerning the chapters and make a 300h video, especially since they will be not very important anecdotes, like for example the fact that Ran's lightning spear technique was invented by Macheni, which I'll give you here just to reach 60 anecdotes. Anyway, since these videos are meant to give you the most complete knowledge of Tower of God, I recommend you to simply reread all the chapters from the beginning by reading the notes. Anyway, that's how I slide to the conclusion. The conclusion of this video and the lore videos on Tower of God in general, because this was the last one. Now that it's done, you just have to reread the chapters and notes or watch my videos again if you need to, in order to have a complete knowledge of Tower of God and its universe. You can like, comment, share, etc. And it's not quite over yet. Because yes, there is still one last video to do, a video that won't really be about Tower of God. And you all already know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yes, we will finally meet again for the 20th and last video of this series, where we will talk about the story within the story, the universe within the universe. I'm talking of course about Talsa User's story.